Hello, this is Norene Kelly, and I'm going to be talking to you today about campaign planning. I serve as the volunteer campaign manager for Karin Derry for Iowa. In 2018, Karin won a very tough race in House District 39, which is Johnston, Grimes, a little bit of Urbandale, and Jefferson Township. A little background. Karin and I have known each other about 15 plus years. We were neighbors for 10 of those years. In 2017, when she was thinking about running, she asked if I would be her campaign manager, and I was really excited to do that, even though I had no experience in that. I went out and bought a book and thought, we can figure this out. We can do this. I knew she'd make a great candidate and representative, and was happy to put in the work for that. This is a picture of me with Senator Merkley from Oregon. This is from 2018 when we were doing door knocking. Of course, one of the great things about being a candidate in Iowa, especially around presidential election time, is you get these special visits from people who are either running or thinking about running. Here's a look at what our district looked like at the beginning of the election year in which Karin was running. 36% of voters were Republicans, 32% no party, 25% Democrat. So we had an uphill battle, and we had to certainly appeal to the independents as well as peel off some Republican voters. Thinking back on our campaign, I've broken it down into 3 steps, which I'll go over in this presentation. 1 is form local group for general political action. 2, prepare for candidacy. And 3, run the campaign to win it. In January of 2017, Karin had gone to Washington for the Women's March with a group. When they got back, they had a meeting at Panera. That's where I joined. Other people joined. That turned into a group that we call Making Change Happen. And that's really the wellspring of Karin's really strong volunteer base. So an important part of our group is not just doing the work, but also having fun. For example, the past couple holidays, we've had a white elephant party, and hey, we have fun with it. And actually, our first candidate wasn't Karin, it was Rhonda Martin, who in 2017 ran for city council in Johnston. She won by a landslide, and now she is running for state senator against Brad Zahn. Go Rhonda! When a candidate has to start preparing for their race, of course, depends on what they're running for. For Rhonda running for city council, it was, a number of months. For Karin running for state representative, we started about 17 months prior to the election. And one of the first things is to form a cabinet. Every campaign is unique, and there's no hard and fast rules about what the roles are, but in general, I would say you would definitely want a treasurer and a campaign manager, and then there can be someone who specializes more in communications and media coordination, and then also a field organizer. In Karin's campaign, everyone was a volunteer, and that's probably going to usually be the case. So it's important to find people who are dedicated to putting in the time. Something I've heard from people who are interested in helping but are a little reticent about it is that they don't have the experience. They feel like they don't know how to do stuff. So they're kind of afraid to fill one of these roles. And what I have to say about that is, hey, Karin had never run for office before. I had never served as a campaign manager. You can figure it out. There's a lot of people around you who know how to do things and can offer advice. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. There are books, there are videos, and just trust yourself. If you're dedicated, if you feel strongly about the candidate and that they can do a good job, then as long as you put in the work, trust me, you'll figure it out and do good. So some things to do when preparing for candidacy. Have conversations with Democratic Party leaders, let them know what you're thinking, attend area meetings, of course, if you aren't doing that already. Figure out the official name of the campaign. You need a logo, and I recommend getting that professionally done. I don't think you have to pay a lot, but you do want a package of digital assets that you can use. And also purchase the website URL. Look into the necessary filings that need to be done to run for the position and make sure those get done on time. Something that is generally tied into the filings is also the opening of a bank account, which you'll need to accept contributions. You'll want an email account for the campaign and the campaign's name, and we found that a Gmail account works fine for that. You'll need a website for the campaign. There are a lot of free options for that or low-cost options. There's a lot of templates that you can choose from, so it's pretty simple to put together. And you do want to keep it pretty minimalist. Once the necessary filings are done and the accounts are set up, then you'll want to be on ActBlue so you can accept contributions via credit card online. And put that link on your website. And also the candidate will want to go back through their social media posts and just do any cleanup that's necessary in light of being a candidate. The candidate and the campaign will want to decide upon the messaging, the main messaging for the campaign. It should be simple. It should obviously appeal to the majority of constituents in the district. This is from Karin's website and what her priorities are. Here are some examples from social media where we're showing the candidate not just as politician, but in other roles as a loving daughter, as an engaged citizen. Around the time of the launch or even before the launch of the campaign, the literature should be worked out. This is one of the most important pieces of communication, and it will be left on many, many doors. It will be brought to all the campaign events. So the candidate and the campaign want to devote a good amount of time to developing this and also running it by a variety of different people to get feedback. It's important to use union printers for all of your printed material. Our friends in labor are amazing supporters of Democrat candidates. Coffees and house parties are an important way for the candidate to gain support as well as do fundraising. The candidate should encourage all supporters to think about holding a coffee or a house party. As the campaign manager, I would reach out to the host about 3 weeks prior to the date and ask them to create a list of who they're inviting and share it with the campaign with the person's phone, email, and address. Work with the campaign to create the invite. Decide if they want to have like a theme to it or a catchy name. Decide if sending out paper invites makes sense or if they're going to invite entirely by email and or phone. Then 2 weeks out from the house party or coffee, we would put it on Karin's Facebook calendar. I would ask the hosts to let us know what they might need. We would let them know that we're attending with at least one volunteer who would staff the welcome table, bring walk cards, signs, a sign-in sheet, and I would ask the host to let us know if they felt more help was needed. And then 1 week out from the date, I would ask the host to call all the people who they invited to encourage attendance. That's really important. And just let them know that our primary reliance on them is to get their invitees to the event. I would then also ask them, or also the campaign can do this, to send a reminder email 2 days prior to the event. And so, it's a lot of people want to help, but sometimes they're nervous about holding this kind of event. So it's really helpful to have a set of directions for the whole process a number of weeks out. As the campaign goes on and the list of supporters grows, the volunteers can reach out to those people. And this is an example of a phone script. Give them a call, say we have you down as a supporter. Make sure that they are voting for the candidate. Ask if the campaign can put a sign in their yard. It's best to get those calls and that planning done as early as possible, because when it gets closer to the campaign, most of the effort should be on door knocking. Also, you can ask people if they would like an absentee ballot. This is a really important piece of the getting out the vote effort. Also, depending on how the conversation goes, you can ask if they would like to volunteer for the campaign, and also if they'd like to make a contribution. The candidate will want to seek endorsements. If there is a primary for their position, then that will come after the primary. This is important for putting on the website and also putting on social media. Besides asking supporters to host an event, the campaign itself, of course, will also want to have a number of events to build momentum and also for fundraising. What we often do with these kind of events is to ask for sponsors so that the food is paid for ahead of time. If there's any cost for the venue, then that's paid for ahead of time. And that as soon as we're actually having the event and collecting contributions, 100% of that can go towards the campaign. Perhaps I'm stating the obvious, but the most important thing about holding an event like this is getting people there. And you have to start early, and then as the date gets closer and closer, just really ramp up putting it on social media and emails and announcing it at meetings and doing everything you can to get people to show up. I found that yard signs were an important part of our success. We put the majority of them up Labor Day weekend. So the day after Labor Day, people are going to work, and it's like, wow, look at all these signs. And if they didn't know who Karin Derry was, they were certainly probably pretty eager to find out. When we delivered the signs, we also left a little note that said we would appreciate a contribution for the sign, and here's the Act Blue link you can go to make the contribution. And I think we said the sign costs like $4 or something. So some people do it, some people don't, and some people probably went on and contributed more than $4. For the really large signs, we looked for Democrats on major roads, and we had a volunteer who went and knocked on their door and asked if we could put a sign in their yard, and we were pretty successful with that. In terms of what the campaign is asking people to do, we're asking them to sign up to go door knocking for the candidate. We would have days of action where we would launch from a particular house, and people who haven't done this before are possibly nervous about it, and make sure there's a veteran door knocker who they can go out with the first or second time, so they can learn the ropes. We ask people to like and follow the candidate on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. Make sure that we have your email and phone number so that we can be in contact with you. We ask them to contribute on ActBlue or contribute by writing a check. ask them to attend events, to bring their friends, to wear the campaign shirt or wear the campaign button. Buttons we gave away for free. Shirts we charged $15, which was just about the cost of the shirt. We also had shirts available to borrow, like at parades, so that we had a real unified look. We asked people to help place yard signs and also, of course, to put one in their own yard. We asked people to show up for the volunteer meetings. We would hold volunteer meetings about once or twice a month. Also participate in the area Democratic group, make sure that they're registered to vote, host a house party, host a coffee, and then of course on election day or before election day for early voting or absentee voting to make sure that they vote. Sign Up Genius is a free website. It's a great tool for organizing. This is an example of how we used it to organize for door knocking. It's also great for organizing, bringing food, and doing other things for various events. Once early voting became available, we really pushed that. We pushed everybody to get their vote in because you know what? People have the best intentions, but things can come up on election day, and it's best to just go take care of it prior to election day. And, you know, we paired that, for example, you can see on the right with an endorser little graphic. So this is on social media, and I expect there are people in the district who have a favorable view of Karin. They're thinking about voting for her, and I'm hoping these sort of posts sort of seal the deal and get them to the early voting place. The 5 days prior to the election, we had a wonderful volunteer who opened up her house to allow it to be our base of operation for Get Out the Vote. We had volunteers bringing food. We had all the door knocking organized so people could just come in, grab a clipboard, and get out and talk to people about Karin and why they should vote for her. And for people who didn't want to do that, we also had phone lists ready to go. So that is, you know, those days leading up to the election and even election day are just crucial. Also, even before this final time period, you'll want to chase down all the absentee ballots that are out. Really crucial in any close election. So last but not least, have fun with the campaign. You know, you're a bunch of people who have this thing in common. You're all Democrats. And I mean, it is a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun too. Karin won. She won her seat, which was fantastic, and she's running again in 2020, and we're all looking forward to doing it all over again. So to wrap up, thinking about 2019 and beyond in the state of Iowa, I hope to see more coordination among campaigns and organizations that want to get Democrats elected. I hope to see kind of a rural outreach. So, for example, getting those yard signs out in those yards to show that there are a lot of Democrats out there and feel that we're not so alone. There are a lot of people who are thinking like us. There's also this notion of extreme welcoming. So when somebody new comes to the group, just be very welcoming and interested in who they are and why they're there, and that you hope to see them again a lot. And then there's also this notion of, hey, let's get every Democrat involved. So how about this? For 2020, I challenge every Democrat to give $20 in 20 minutes to a local candidate. There's going to be a lot of focus on the presidential race, but you know what? We got to get our local candidates elected as well. And you might say, well, that's not very much time or money, but you know what? It's just that first step. It's just getting someone to show up to make that first contribution, and chances are they're going to do it again and again. I'll leave you with some resources. Thank you so very much for listening and for being involved.